that feeling of when you visit a garden and how everything is like awoken within you. It's the sound of the pollinators, it's like the smell of the flowers, it's like the sound of maybe your feet walking across crunchy gravel.
It's different in every garden.
It's different in every garden. Even in the same garden, it's different at different times of year, and it will never be what it is on that one day ever again.
Welcome to afternoon tea at Pantry Hill. Join us over a cup or two as we work together to create home.
Step by step, down the path we made.
As our garden has grown, so have the connections we've made because of it. It's a hobby that brings people together and offers common ground, even across continents. This past winter, Beth Gregg, the founder of UK-based Claverton Cloches, visited Pantry Hill. One of the most unique parts of our garden are Beth's Victorian-era inspired cloches, which help us extend our short northeastern season. Although the garden was buried in snow, Beth and I sat down over a cup of tea and chatted about not just gardening for today, but to honor yesterday and to cultivate hope for tomorrow.
This is Beth Gregg, and she is the owner of Claverton Cloches, and they are these really beautiful, almost kind of like mini greenhouses that we have in our garden. And Beth has come all the way from the UK to visit us here today. She was at the Philadelphia Flower Show and then made her way north to come and visit us here at Pantry Hill. So thank you for coming, Beth.
Oh, pleasure. It's so nice after speaking to you on an Instagram for so long.
So why I started teaching my pie workshops was because I wanted to find a way to make those connections that we were having on Instagram tangible. And so when you reached out, I was like, yes, that's what this is all about. It's about building community and connecting with each other. And obviously we're interested in the same things because...
Yeah, I think we've worked out. I think we share like a very similar aesthetic and appreciation of the same kind of things. And the same kind of life as well, where you feel like a real connection to where you live. And kind of, and that's woven through kind of what you're doing and how you even style your home as well.
Right. And just this kind of concept of like back to basics, you know? And I think that sort of, I mean, with the cloches, that is what you've done.
So a cloche, for a bit of backstory, is it's a miniature greenhouse, which you can move it around your garden and bring it to the plants other than having to move your plants inside and outside from like a windowsill.
Right, so it's great for like starting seeds directly in the ground, or like we use them here because our season is so short to kind of extend our season a little bit on both ends.
Right, and I'd seen them in use in like in sort of these historic walled gardens in England, and I wanted them for my own garden. And then I thought, you know, someone must make, I must be able to still buy them somewhere, and there was no one making them in this way where they were made really, really well. Took an antique one that I'd found at auction and kind of designed it backwards, measuring, you know, each little part, and then had sort of the design file on the computer, 3D printed it, sent it to a foundry, and they said, well, we're not going to make one. You know, give us at least a decent order. Let's make sort of 10 or a dozen or so. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with a dozen cloches for my garden?
Yeah.
You know, I only grow so many. At this point, I grew loads of chilies, and I thought I don't grow that many chilies.
Yeah.
And so I created an Instagram, and within like 2 weeks, they'd sold.
They're incredibly heavy.
They're really heavy.
And when they're like in the best way, right? You're like, you want them to be heavy. You want them when you're putting them in your garden to feel substantial. Right. Like they're going to be out here.
They're not going to blow away.
Right. And they're going to hold up to the elements. Yeah. And they're going to last forever.
Well, that's the idea. I wanted to create something that, like, not just for us to garden with, but hopefully for our children to garden with as well, and possibly even their children. Because I don't know what it's like in the States, but in the UK, certainly a lot of garden equipment, it lasts a couple of seasons,
throw away.
And then it goes to landfill. And the whole reason why we're gardening is this appreciation of kind of nature and the earth in a way, and this just feels totally at odds with that.
Right.
So from day one when I started, longevity and that quality was like number one.
They are now being used also by gardening experts across the UK and, you know, people in the US. But they're being featured in King Charles's gardens at several of his estates and homes.
Yeah.
And is that crazy?
Yeah, that's still a crazy thought to me. They're used in Highgrove, which is King Charles's, I suppose, his sort of
personal.
Yeah.
It's open to the public, but
they open the gardens to the public, but it's very much his sort of home.
Right.
And then we also delivered them to Balmoral Castle in July last year, which is
in Scotland.
Yeah, that's the royal residence in Scotland. It's a castle, and they have a really large kitchen garden there. But their last frost is like end of June.
Right.
They have a really short growing season, so
right.
they're quite reliant on glass houses and cloches to keep the garden productive.
I usually just direct sow. I'm not like a big seedling starter.
Really?
I don't start any seeds. It's too much work with 3 little kids.
Interesting. So in a way, like, cloches are perfect for you.
They're perfect for me. I am your ideal customer, other than King Charles. King Charles and me.
You've got some of your other things in here as well.
Yeah. So sage here.
Yeah.
Thyme.
And yeah, wow! I can't believe how deep it is.
Yeah. This is when you were like, I'd love to come and see the garden at the beginning of March. I was like. You initially just wanted to create these for your small garden plot,
Right, which
you
was
didn't
so
have
small.
a massive,
no, I didn't have any grass or beds in my garden. Even it was a terrace. I live in Bath, and I was growing loads of chilies. I mean, those were like the things I just got really into,
Yeah.
and I started just buying them from like the garden center as a small plant, and then they really like being hot, so I'd put them into bigger pots as they got larger, and then I wanted something. They started on my windowsill, but there's only so many things you can grow on your windowsill, and I thought, let's use this little terrace at the back, but it was very windy, so I just created these cloches to cover them. But that was just, it was almost like they were like my gateway vegetable into like growing lots of other things. So you
started really small on a terrace with
really
chilies.
Small, yeah.
I started my own, the first garden that Eric and I ever started together when we had our first apartment. We were still in college, and I missed my mom's gardens. My mom she did flowers, but she had a beautiful herb garden as well. And so we always cooked from the herb garden. And so I did a deck planter. Just one of those, like, you put
Perfect
it on the railing,
example.
right?
Yeah,
and it was so small.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And we cooked from it every day. And I clipped it and preserved it and dried it.
And you just had different herbs growing in there.
Yeah. It was just like maybe a variety of like 4 or 5 different things that we cooked with.
Yeah, you do more and more each year. And some things don't work out, and sometimes you know why, and sometimes you don't know why.
Yeah, no, and I'm not an expert. And like it was just like, I would love to try this year. And so you add one more thing, or you add a bigger bed, or you, and everything that I try to do is fairly low maintenance. I don't love anything that,
it needs a lot of
time. It's just something that I can put out there and we water it. And so one little bit at a time.
There's lots of instructional videos online about how to garden, but what I kind of want, I suppose, to show is that feeling of when you visit a garden and how everything is like awoken within you. It's the sum of the parts. It's how, it's the sound of the pollinators. It's like the smell of the flowers. It's like the sound of maybe your feet walking across crunchy gravel.
It's different in every garden.
It's different in every garden. Even in the same garden, it's different at different times of year, and even on a different day. I think a garden is never the same. It will never be what it is on that one day ever again. Yeah. Because it just, you'll revisit a year later, and things obviously will have grown, and it just. There's something so nice about that.
It's really an interesting dichotomy too, because you're working with nature, and you want nature to be able to take over and do its thing, but you're also kind of bending nature a little bit in like a way that feels artistic and creative for you, and everybody does that in a different way.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. It's a good point, because there's sometimes I think gardening is almost like learning. It's as much about knowing when to stop as when to go. Like some of the best gardens that I visit, there's lots of things growing between the cracks on the path, or like they're climbers that are a little bit unruly, but there's such magic in that.
The gardens that are defined by the landscape, for me, I think are so interesting.
Yeah.
Like just something that was, you know, created and curated, but in a way that almost when you're walking through it, you're like, is this natural? How did this end up like this? You know, it's like so whimsical, and a lot of times those are very much planned out, but they just, you know, you kind of like plant things knowing that like this is going to climb here, and the point is that you're going to leave it.
Okay, so when we first started gardening out here, I had reserved each one of the garden beds for 1 or 2 different types of plants. And as I learned more about gardening, I realized the benefits of companion planting. So we mix and match different vegetables and herbs that are beneficial to each other in terms of the nutrients that they're adding to the soil or how they keep certain pests away from other plants. So when you look at the garden now, you're going to see a wide, colorful variety of plants in every single garden bed. And every garden bed has been very intentionally planned out. So a good example of a companion plant that you're going to see throughout the garden are marigolds, because marigolds help keep a wide variety of pests away from quite a few different fruits and vegetables. So right now in the garden beds, what you're going to see flourishing is our late spring harvest. So we're looking at our spinach, which is almost done. It's starting to get a little warm. Our lettuces, our peas are a little bit behind this year. We were a little late getting them into the ground, and it's been a really wet and rainy, cold spring. Most of what you see here is just getting up and going because we are in kind of like a microclimate. We are 3 hours north of New York City in the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains. And so our gardening season here is late, and it's actually pretty short. So as you saw in that sit-down chat that I had with Beth of Claverton Cloches, we use her cloches to kind of jumpstart our spring harvest. So you'll notice in some of the garden beds where you have kind of thick sections of lettuce, those were underneath the cloches. And just recently, because it started to get really warm, we pulled the cloches, and I have them on the table here right now to kind of avoid our lettuces sprouting.
We always joke that Pantry Hill is a forever project. This is something that my idea of what this place will be 50 years from now is my ideal, you know, but we're going to be working our whole lives to get it to that point.
Right.
But
what a legacy.
But
right?
it's a legacy.
And that's I think when you get, not that we're not old, but when you start to kind of get a bit older, you realize that this stuff is actually really important because it is actually, time goes really quickly. It does. Actually to start kind of laying those roots and foundations for everyone sort of ahead of you to enjoy it. I mean, there's a really good quote, and I can't remember the exact quote and who it said it, but it when you garden, it's to believe in tomorrow. Yeah. And you're gardening for not really yourself ever. It's sort of for everyone.
Yeah, you're anticipating what is going to come of the work that you're doing now in the future, and whether or not it's even for you to enjoy, right? It could be for, with the sugar maples, they're going to take so long to establish themselves. It's not for us to enjoy. It's for whoever comes here next.
From seed to stove, our garden is a natural extension of our kitchen, used for growing fruits, vegetables, and a handful of cutting flowers. It's where we practice the gardening and farming techniques of our grandmothers and grandfathers as we strive to create a symbiotic relationship with nature. It's where our 3 little boys are learning the valuable lessons of hard work, patience, and perseverance. Built with our own hands, our garden is a true labor of love. It's come a long way from the overgrown lot where we uncovered and removed many mountain boulders and shards of beautiful old pottery, relics of farmhouses past. After 9 years of steady progress, we still have big dreams for its future, one season at a time. If you're thinking of starting a kitchen garden of your own, my advice is start small. Pick 2 or 3 things to grow that you know your family will eat. If you find yourself looking to expand, choose one project each season, and hopefully, with a little luck, a bit of rain, and a lot of sunshine, you'll be enjoying it for years to come.
Thank you for joining us for afternoon tea. We hope you'll take some time to enjoy your home this week.
If you like exclusive content from this episode, be sure to subscribe to my Substack.